Hello there, you Awakening Wonders. Thanks for joining us live on the internet, on Rumble. The first 10, 15 minutes we put up in all sorts of places. But after that, when I need to speak freely, we're exclusively available on Rumble. And we're going to need to speak freely today because from Fox News, we've got Kat Timpf, commentator that I met when I went on Greg Gutfeld this time. Are Fox News going to be able to continue to pay people with their massive out-of-court settlement? And does this mean that democracy is officially not rigged, that elections are not rigged now because Fox making those claims on air while privately they exchanged texts saying that they didn't believe them themselves, which, by the way, sounds very similar to the American government's official stance on the Ukraine-Russia conflict, publicly saying, this is a winnable war, go Ukraine, private round the back. We ain't getting none of that territory back, never admitting that there are boots on the ground of US personnel. These are the content of the recent leaks that you may not have heard about because all anyone will tell you is, this guy calls himself the OG. He's in chat rooms. He probably masturbates into a sock. That's not real proper news, is it? We bring you real news, and real news will always be about establishment narratives, challenging them and breaking down centralized power. So, whilst we'll talk a bit about Fox News' payout, we'll be asking bigger questions. Does this mean an end to systemic corruption? Does this mean that the next time there's an election in your country, the side that loses won't be saying, the election was rigged? And does it mean that the only answer is secession now, that America needs to accept its too vast a territory for one centralized, corporatized, lying, corrupt, globalist government, and it's time to decentralize, devolve, and bring true democracy to America? Let me know in the chat if you think that's the kind of direction that America should head in, or should they double down on authoritarianism, censorship, surveillance, the way things appear to be going. If you're living in New York City now, watch your back, there's a digidogger coming your way. Not having learned the basic lessons of RoboCop, RoboCops are being introduced and made to sound all favourable and chummy with the use of the cute moniker Digidogs. It's only a Digidog that's tyrannising me. What's that just shot me in the back? It was a Digidog. Oh, how can I stay mad at you? Would you like another silicon chip? Would you like a semiconductor? We ain't going to Taiwan, baby. Not now, not never, unless it becomes profitable. Once we click over to being exclusively on Rumble, we're going to bring you a breathtaking, mind-bending, bone-breaking tale about China potentially developing a certain medicine even before a particular outbreak was even recognized. Begging the question, if the outbreak hasn't happened yet, how come they're developing a medicine for it? Is this a conspiracy theory, or is this just another one of those news stories that the mainstream will be reporting 6 months to a year down the line? Let me know in the chat which you think it is. So there it is. Fox settled out of court for saying that Dominion's voting machines are faulty. Turns out they're some of the best damn voting machines that money can buy. Fantastic stuff. In other news, there's a new voice in town. There's a new political power rising up. There's a man who will embrace vulgarity with a brazenness heretofore not seen. We've often said on this channel that Donald Trump's power is drawn from the fact that within systemic corruption, a person that embraces vulgarity, a person that can say, yeah, I know there are tax loopholes, I used them. I know the system's rigged because I participated in rigging it. We'll be looking right now at Donald Trump's magnificent cards. And later, we'll be looking at some Democrat corruption, too, that suggests that they're in no position to attack Trump. That's why he is Teflon to their slurs, because they ain't got no basis upon which to attack him. Joining me for all of this and more is my very, very neatly dressed on-screen assistant, Gareth Roy.
Oh. Thank you.
Giving you a full... Did you like that? To be announced. So I thought I would do that. I thought I'd give you an on-screen announcement. Are you the sort of person who would, under any circumstances, get a Donald Trump collectible card?
Well, I don't know. I'd have to see. I imagine it's a very low-key advert for it.
He doesn't exaggerate the significance of these cards. He doesn't suggest that they're important non-fungibles. Fungible is not a word you ever thought would make it into the mainstream, but here it is, fungible. It's here to stay. We'll be talking about Fox's out-of-court settlement, but let's have a look at Donald Trump's latest gambit. It's pretty cool. Have a look.
Hello again. This is your favorite president, Donald Trump, with some news you are going...
Do you think he'd record something to a phone? Do you think that someone just puts a phone and goes, oh, we're doing some more of them cards?
Yeah.
And then he just does that.
Yeah.
I agree.
I bet he does it in one take.
One take, easy.
I really love. A few months ago, we almost broke the internet when I announced my Trump digital trading cards. These beautiful Trump cards made.
Beautiful. It's interesting because we have progressed beyond irony, beyond postmodernity, where Trump, far from being embarrassed about an image of himself as a firefighter or as a rock star, literally will embrace it. And I reckon that tells you that we're living in something so lurid and so vivid that there's nothing that he can do. Like when he famously said he could shoot someone on Madison Avenue, is that we're living in such a nihilistic maelstrom now where we know that figures like Biden are only inadvertently honest in so much as they are like a kind of barely vivacious cadaver orating badly from the pulpit, that they somehow represent what they are without ever telling you the truth. And stories like this one, like, oh, Fox have had to do this massive out-of-court settlement. Hooray! Hooray for democracy! Hooray for justice! Not really. Clearly, America is systemically broken. Clearly, the mainstream media is broken. Clearly, you get no congressional options that mean anything in a system where there are wealth transfers in the trillions during a time of poverty and suffering. I'm referring to the pandemic, at a time where 50% of federal budgets go to the Pentagon. 50% of that then ends up in the military-industrial complex in private contractors' hands. These are not the kind of policies that you want implemented, are they? Let me know in the chat in the comments. Would you go, oh yeah, could you send 10 billion to Taiwan? That's happening. 10 billion's going to Taiwan in aid. Did you know that? Did you vote for it? Let me know. I don't remember voting for it, but then I'm not American. You know, all of these systems, all of this expenditure is set up to support a system that requires constant war in its mouth. It's a war-devouring machine. All this stuff is a sideshow. There's, in a sense, Trump's cards are as important as the Fox payout, or Hillary piously saying, oh, he used to say, lock me up. Well, he should be locked up. It's all, as we know now, theatre. There is no meaningful difference between the actors on this stage. No meaningful difference. I know some of you have personal affinities with or affiliations for some of them, but I'm offering you this. What difference does it really make if you don't make some systemic change? Let me know. Let me know in the chat or the comments. Have a look.
Headlines all over the world because of the speed at which they sold. Original cards sold out so fast. Everybody is asking me to do another series. Well, I've got some fantastic news for you. My Trump digital trading cards are back with a bang. Series 2, the new collection, features incredible artwork of me as a rock star and also as a monster trucker. People...
He has to list some of the ones.
Monster trucker.
I wonder if they gave him an option.
They must have done.
Which ones to highlight.
Yeah.
Like, which ones do you want to say? Yeah, the Rockstar one, the trucker one.
Because he'll do so many that eventually they'll like run out, and it'll just be like standard things. Me as a man collecting the bins or something.
Me looking at my own Trump non-fungible cards. It'll become a sort of a self-devouring vortex of non-fungibility.
Love to collect baseball cards, but why settle for that?
Get off a baseball card. I'm sick of this. This is just baseball.
Yeah, with maybe some bubble gum in it or something.
It's not even very nice bubble gum.
No.
What's that powdery stuff on the surface? Why is there a zigzag down it? I don't want that.
Yeah.
I want a non-fungible Trump rock star. Some odd hybrid of Elvis Presley and John Bon Jovi and Donald Trump. And I'm willing to pay money for that, actually, to get it.
You can collect the greatest trading card in history, my Trump digital trading.
Greatest trading cards in history. There's no way of measuring that. There's no way of measuring that. Is there monetarily?
I don't think so.
Weight? Impact? I mean, what metric do you use to make these claims, damn it? But in the world of pure theatre, then why not have this? If Jake Tapper can turn up on CNN saying, you're not going to believe this, Fox claiming to be a news outlet, when CNN, as you know and I know, are every bit as bad, is in a sense only different by degree. Have a look now at Jake Tapper on CNN. Okay, let's have a look.
Fox trying to put a positive face on what can only be interpreted as one of the ugliest and most embarrassing moments.
That's performance. He's shaking his head, right? That he's performing the news. The graphics are grandiose and filled with pomposity and self-importance. So Trump's cards, which will be being mocked all over TV now, you'll see him being mocked on late night stuff. It's only an amplification of something that passes as ordinary mainstream reporting. Look at this. Oh, Fox calling themselves a news. I mean, I can't believe I'm going to say this. I'm going to actually laugh. This is performance. So if the milieu becomes brazen vulgarity, then someone who is a master of brazen vulgarity will succeed in that landscape. Not to mention that the system itself is so devoid of moral authority, so incapable of delivering meaningful change, that a master of rhetoric, a master of narrative, is going to succeed in that space.
In the history of journalism, Fox issued a statement saying, quote, "We are pleased to have reached a settlement of our dispute with Dominion Voting."
Dispute. Oh, it breaks me to even have to report this stuff. Like, to have this level of haughtiness, to speak from a position of such piety, you cannot work for a network that has been involved in falsely reporting on the Russiagate stuff, the Steele dossier stuff, the Joe Rogan horse paste versus the other medicine. We're still on YouTube, so I can't even say that. You can't work for an organization that has its own system of corruption in place. You know, when I was in America, I got involved in a temporary spat with someone that's saying, no, MSNBC and CNN are meaningfully superior to Fox. And is that it? Is that the conversation you want to have now? You don't want to have the conversation about, look, this is really what CNN are involved with. They promoted the debunked narrative that Trump colluded with Russia. They spent months downplaying Hunter Biden's laptop. They got involved in all that Joe Rogan stuff. Let's have a look at some genuine systemic corruption. Have a look at some meaningful numbers and figures that will not be changed as a result of Fox's payout. Look, the Pentagon spent $14 trillion after 9/11. 55% of it went to for-profit defense contractors. You know that already. You know that they are agitating to increase Pentagon budgets even now, while the Pentagon consistently keeps failing audits. Is that today's video? Or are we doing that another day on Here's the News? There's so much stuff coming today. I think we're talking about robots arresting you robots dressed as dogs arresting you in New York City for your own good, mind. Military contractors have spent $2.5 billion on lobbying over the past 2 decades. So in a way, while you're saying, like, the claim that's being made is Fox News shouldn't have said the election was rigged. The election isn't rigged. Democracy is fine. But in 2016, when Trump won, the Democrats spent years after saying, oh, it's Russiagate, it's not a legitimate. That's what they did. And now, subsequent to this election, Trump saying, oh, it's corrupt, these machines, you know, like a variety of. And you at home might think it's rigged. But whether it is rigged or not rigged, it's corrupt anyway. Why would we quibble about the minutiae of the corruption when you can look at numbers like this that tell you in plain sight, indefatigably, what the problem is? The problem is, at the very top of the machine are elite institutions that require war, that require sickness, that require your poverty in order to function. As long as that remains a fact, as long as you cannot vote against that, you are going to live basically in a system that's somewhat like this, because no one's saying, when I get into power, what we're going to do is we're going to ensure that the Pentagon's budgets are in line with necessary expenditure, we don't get involved in unnecessary foreign wars, and we're going to make sure that that money ends up supporting the actual troops that we use as the metaphors and symbols for patriotism, but are willing to end up on the streets, homeless, living on food stamps. We've got stats and data on that stuff if you want it. Soon after the Ukraine war broke out last year, Congress voted to appropriate $40 billion of aid in Ukraine. You didn't get to vote for it, but you were propagandized, so you couldn't think straight about it. And that's not to say Russia's invasion isn't criminal, even if they were agitated by NATO expansionism. It's still a criminal invasion. But this $40 billion of aid in Ukraine, do you think that all ended up as like blankets wrapped around little kids in Kiev? Or do you think that Raytheon and Lockheed Martin saw some of that money? Let me know in the chat, let me know in the comments. Every single Democrat voted for it, while 40 Republicans urged Joe Biden to include a 5% increase. Both sides basically the same. And of course, to give you a bit of big picture stuff, billionaires added $5 trillion to their fortunes during the pandemic. How did your business get on? How did your lifestyle improve during that period? Let me know in the comments, let me know in the chat. So essentially, we're having conversations and arguments that are confined to territory that cannot meaningfully affect change. That's the game. It's the only game in town. Pious posturing by career politicians that are basically performers. And here's one of the best. Hillary Clinton sat strapped up in blue, haughtily mmming her way through an interview. She says a lot. I don't know what's going on. I don't know if she's having a particularly delicious boiled sweetie, or if she's on the precipice of some other kind of bodily bliss, but she's saying all the way through it. More than bop. I ain't heard this much since bop. Have a look at her.
America goes to the polls. Donald Trump is running for president while under criminal indictment. This, the man who back in 2016 consistently accused you of law breaking and actively encouraged chants of lock her up directed at you. It's pretty ironic, isn't it, that he is now...
I'll tell you what's also pretty ironic. It's ironic that in their self-described Pied Piper strategy, the Clinton campaign proposed intentionally cultivating extreme right-wing presidential candidates, hoping to turn them into the new mainstream of the Republican Party in order to try to increase Clinton's chance of winning. The Clinton campaign and Democratic National Committee called for using far-right candidates as a cudgel to move the more established candidates further to the right. That's ironic. That's real irony. The irony is supporting campaigns that they regard as far-right, then finding themselves overwhelmed by those candidates. That's a good and literal definition of irony. Clinton's camp insisted that Trump and other extremists should be elevated to leaders of the pack and media outlets should be told to take them seriously. You know that the media that decries and attacks Donald Trump are financially dependent on him. That's why they're willing to film hours of his aeroplane on the tarmac while Joe Biden crushes healthcare packages put in place by Trump that they claim they support. It's theatre. In this realm of theatre, Fox's out-of-court settlement is not a victory for democracy. In this theatre, Trump's trading cards are not egregious. They're just another symbol of where we are. Why not do that? Why not have Donald Trump dress up as a rock star and treat it like kind of a serious thing or a fun thing or whatever? Like, we're living in this sort of postmodern, valueless expanse now where anything goes. Nothing has any real meaning. Listen, in a minute we're going to click over to being exclusively on Rumble, talking about a story that I just can't believe is true. It's one of those things we find ourselves reporting over here on Rumble, the possibility that that China were developing a particular medication before that medication would have been needed because there was no such outbreak. I'm being deliberately obtuse at the moment, deliberately cryptic, because I know we are still on YouTube where we would receive strikes for that kind of information.